students. They're largely women of color, the organizers, and it was started in response to a string of racist incidents that happened at the school back in 2021. So I was asked to speak about my experiences with racism and discrimination. And the organizers asked if I could tell maybe stories of what I went through in high school, and I said, honestly, I don't remember. I don't have any stories from high school, but I could talk about my fight against racism and discrimination in my work campaigning for Palestinian human rights. And they said, yes, that would be great. And that is exactly what I did. But I didn't go to the school to talk to them about what's happening in Israel-Palestine. I used my 7 minutes on the stage to tell my story. So my parents came to this country when my mom was almost 9 months pregnant with me because they wanted their kids to be raised in a country where they have freedom and rights and opportunity, which is not available to Palestinians in Palestine. And I believe I had that. I had a privileged upbringing, and I told a couple of stories about my name and other things that put me on edge when I was younger. But the truth is, when I was younger, I did not take pride in my Palestinian heritage and culture. I just wanted to fit in with everyone else. And it wasn't until I went to college that I began to explore that a little bit more and realize that the fact that I didn't share my background with the people that I grew up with was a great disadvantage when we're talking about what a diverse multicultural world this is and how we can learn from each other. And knowing the sacrifices that my parents made to leave everything they know to come to this country, I wanted to learn more. And so I decided to move to Jerusalem after college. This is what I said to the students. I initially went to work for a conflict resolution program that brought together kids, Palestinians and Israelis, usually between the ages of 13 and 16, to get to know each other, to break down stereotypes, to break down barriers and walls of hatred in the hopes of building a better future where we have leaders that know and understand and that could lead the region into a better future. That was the program that I went to work for. But what I discovered, and I also shared this with the students, is that these kinds of programs aren't enough. It's not enough to have a friend from the other side, because there are systems in place that discriminate against people, systemically and systematically. And if you're just talking to someone and making yourself feel good because you have a friend from the other side, that's not enough and actually could do a great disservice. And so I ended up leaving this program and co-founding what's called the International Solidarity Movement. The International Solidarity Movement calls on people from all over the world, whatever country you come from, whatever socioeconomic, religious, anything background, political background you come from, if you stand for freedom versus occupation and oppression, then you can come stand with Palestinians in their struggle to be free. And in that work, I had the privilege to work with thousands of people from dozens of countries. And what I told the students is, to my surprise, many of the people that came to work with us with the ISM were of Jewish background, Jewish Americans. I also marched and protested and was shot at and arrested next to Jewish Israelis, Jewish Europeans, Jewish Americans, because this is not a conflict of Jews versus Israelis or Jews versus Muslims and Christians, or that Palestinians, Muslims want to throw Jews into the sea. It is not that. And that also, because of the comments that I was making in my story, I want the students to understand this. It is not Jews versus Palestinians. It is freedom versus occupation. And that's why we have groups like Palestine. And that's why we have groups like Jewish Voice Peace and thousands across the country and tens and hundreds of thousands around the world, that no one actually used their Jewish background to speak up and to say that what Israel is doing doesn't represent me. And the message that I left them with, because I know that my experience was a little bit international, bringing that in, and I said, look, this is my experience, but what I want to leave you with as students, because as you go out into the world, is not to get siloed in this kind of identity politics, and not to let the forces that try to divide us based on our differences win. Understand, please matter what their background is, deserves the same kind of rights that you want for yourself and that you deserve. And if you keep that in mind and remember to be kind and conscientious, then you will go out into this world and make the difference. Make this world the kind of world that I want to raise my 2 young kids in, and that you'll want to raise your children and your children's children in. That's the message I left them with, and that's why I am doubly horrified at what happened after that talk. What happened is that people were uncomfortable that someone should suggest, a Palestinian from our own experience, should suggest that Palestinians aren't free, that Israel is committing human rights abuses, even though these are documented, even though I did not go into detail with the students about them. Did I talk about Palestinian homes being demolished? Yes. In one of the 4 talks, because there were 4 assemblies, 1 for each grade, in the first one, I talked about one of my colleagues who came to work with the International Solidarity Movement and was working in Gaza. So I briefly mentioned the situation in Gaza, and I read one of her emails home, because our volunteers tend to write about their experiences, and this volunteer wrote very poignant emails to her mother about what she was seeing in Gaza. And why I raised this issue is because 2 weeks after one of her last emails, this volunteer, Rachel Corey, was run over and killed by an Israeli military bulldozer while she was trying to prevent the demolition of a Palestinian home. And I spoke at the school on March 14th, and March 16th, 2023 marked the 20th anniversary of her death. So I read some of her words, and I mentioned that she volunteered in Gaza and what the situation was in Gaza. After that first assembly, the principal pulled me aside and said that, we have a lot of families in this school that have very close ties to Israel, and I said, yeah, but this is what's happening, and this is my experience in my organization, and he said, yes, but, I want the students.
That's happening is the murder of Jewish kids. These little
Just get the hell out of here. Get the hell out of here. Okay. All right. Get the hell out of here.
Let me just say that
four daughters and her mother were brutally murdered by Palestinians. Brutally targeted. You guys look like human rights? Shame on you. Shame on you.
Yalla, go.
We are going to have a question and answer period, and we do welcome people to engage and ask questions. And he has, I don't know this gentleman, but I'm sure he has every right to be upset at the murder, at the killing of anybody. And yes, there is a lot of killing going on there. But what the problem is, when we don't understand that the system, that the structure of oppression there is causing the violence, then we just continue to point fingers and say this person. Yes, these people were killed. Yes, they were killed by Palestinians, but were they killed by Palestinians because Palestinians are hateful people that just want to kill Jews? Is that what you think?
Yes.
If that's what some people think, then that's unfortunate. If that is what some people think, then that is an unfortunate view to have. It is a very racist and bigoted view to have. It is not the kind of view that is going to get us to any kind of understanding. It is not the kind of view that will acknowledge what I told these students, that everybody deserves the same freedom, dignity, and to the killing, but you cannot expect that a people will forever live subjugated and just accept it,
By Hamas.
okay?
Subjugated by Hamas.
I'm Palestinian, and I don't feel like I'm subjugated by Hamas. But let me, and look, ma'am, you are welcome. Ma'am, you are welcome to be here, and I do want to hear your comments and your questions after. But in order to be productive, it would be helpful if you did wait till the question and answer period. So I think I'm going to end here, but I also want to acknowledge that, yes, unfortunately, I think some students, well, not I think, I know, and it's been said, that some students in the auditorium listening to me were made uncomfortable. Probably some of them just by the fact that I was Palestinian, that I was wearing a keffiyeh, that I said the word Palestine. But that some people would be uncomfortable, and it's not just these students, we see it all over the place, that some people are made uncomfortable by the thought that other people want the same rights and dignities that they have. And that is not a mindset that it's not the kind of mindset that will lead us to the kind of world we say that we want. It's not enough to talk about peace. We have to actually work to make it happen.